Welcome back to your source for the stories behind the headlines. Today, we're paying tribute to a musical revolutionary whose genius changed the world forever, but whose personal journey became one of music's most heartbreaking tales. This is the story of Sly Stone, the man who invented funk, headlined Woodstock, and spent his final years homeless on the streets of Los Angeles. Get ready for a story that will inspire, devastate, and remind you why true artistry never dies. Behind the electrifying performances, the wild costumes, and the revolutionary hits that defined a generation, was a man slowly losing everything. Fame devoured him. Addiction crippled him. The industry abandoned him. Yet somehow his music never stopped echoing through the decades. This is the untold story of Sly Stone, a man who broke every rule in the music industry and paid the ultimate price. The rise, the fall, and the funk that refused to die. What if I told you that one of music's greatest innovators, a man who literally invented funk and changed the course of popular music forever, spent his final years living in a van on the streets of Los Angeles? This isn't just another celebrity tragedy story. This is the heartbreaking rise and devastating fall of the genius behind Sly and the Family Stone, who passed away recently at age 82. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. Despite losing everything, despite the homelessness, the legal battles, and the health problems, his music never stopped inspiring new generations of artists. How does someone go from headlining Woodstock to living on the streets? And why does his legacy remain untouchable even today? Let's start with something that will absolutely blow your mind. Picture this. It's 1969, and while most of America is still deeply divided by race and gender, there's one band taking the stage at Woodstock that looks like nothing anyone has ever seen before. Black and white musicians, men and women, all playing together in perfect harmony. This wasn't just revolutionary, it was dangerous. Leading this musical revolution was a 26-year-old Texas-born genius named Sylvester Stewart, better known to the world as Sly Stone. But Sly's story doesn't begin at Woodstock. It starts in the unlikely suburb of Vallejo, California, where a young boy and his siblings were mastering every instrument they could get their hands on. By the mid-1960s, Sly wasn't just playing music, he was discovering it, working as both a record producer and DJ at KSL radio station. His deep, resonant voice became the soundtrack to San Francisco's exploding music scene, introducing listeners to hits being created by local legends like Jefferson Airplane, Santana, and the Grateful Dead. Can you imagine being at the epicenter of one of music's most transformative periods? Sly wasn't just witnessing history, he was about to make it. In 1966, he made a decision that would change music forever. He combined his band with one led by his brother Freddie, creating Sly and the Family Stone. What happened next was nothing short of magical. Think about this for a moment. In 1968, when America was torn apart by civil rights struggles and social upheaval, Sly Stone released songs like Dance to the Music and Everyday People. These weren't just catchy tunes, they were anthems of unity, celebrating the simple joy that music creates when it brings people together. But here's what made Sly truly special. He could make you dance while making you think. Take his song Family Affair. On the surface, it's an infectious groove that gets your body moving. But listen to the lyrics, and you'll hear Sly's distinctive growl delivering some of the most profound observations about family dynamics and human nature ever put to music. He had this incredible ability to pierce straight to the heart of complex emotions while keeping your feet moving to the beat. By 1969, Sly and the Family Stone weren't just a band, they were a cultural phenomenon. Their Woodstock performance of I Want to Take You Higher became legendary, lifting an entire audience into a state of pure musical euphoria. They also performed at the Summer of Soul concert in Harlem, an event so powerful it was later immortalized in Questlove's award-winning documentary. But Sly Stone wasn't just ahead of his time musically. He was a visual revolutionary too. Picture this: massive afro glowing under stage lights, elaborate costumes that defied every convention, and a presence so commanding it predicted the entire funk revolution that was coming. James Brown might have laid the foundation, but Sly Stone built the skyscraper that would inspire legends like George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic. So what went wrong? How does someone go from being at the absolute pinnacle of musical success to losing everything? The answer is as tragic as it is familiar, but with twists that make Sly's story uniquely heartbreaking. By 1971, just 2 years after Woodstock, everything started falling apart. Drug use began consuming the band. Internal conflicts tore them apart from within, and suddenly the group that had been booked at every major venue in America couldn't get gigs. The music that had once flowed so effortlessly became forced and uninspired. Success, which had seemed so permanent, proved to be as fragile as a soap bubble. But Sly didn't give up, not at first. Throughout the 1970s, he kept working, kept creating, often playing all the instruments himself because he was such a multi-talented musician. However, the magic that had made him a superstar seemed to have vanished. In 1983, his troubles became public when he was arrested in Florida on drug charges. This was just the beginning of a downward spiral that would last for decades. Here's what makes this story so particularly tragic. While other fallen stars fade into obscurity, Sly's influence only grew stronger. Hip-hop artists sampled his beats, funk bands tried to recreate his sound, and music historians recognized him as one of the most important innovators in popular music history. In 1993, when Sly and the Family Stone were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Sly made a rare public appearance, reminding everyone of the genius that still burned within him. But the most shocking moment came in 2006, when Sly surprised everyone at the Grammy Awards. Picture this. A man who had been largely absent from public life for years suddenly appears on stage, sporting a massive blonde mohawk, leading his band through a medley of their greatest hits. For those few minutes, the old magic was back, and everyone remembered why Sly Stone had been so important. Yet behind the scenes, the reality was heartbreaking. By 2009, documentary filmmaker Willem Alkema revealed that Sly was homeless, despite his legendary status. Can you imagine? The man who had created some of the most joyful, uplifting music in history was living without a home, struggling with health issues and financial problems that seemed impossible to solve. There were legal battles over unpaid royalties. Sly won a $5 million judgment that was later overturned, leaving him even more financially devastated. Reports emerged of him living in a van in Los Angeles, a far cry from the stages where he had once commanded audiences of hundreds of thousands. But here's what's remarkable about true genius: it never really dies. In 2023, at age 80, Sly released his autobiography titled "Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again," named after one of his most innovative songs. Even in his writing, you could see flashes of the brilliant wordplay that had made his lyrics so memorable. In one particularly beautiful passage, he wrote about all the people who had tried to tell his story over the years. They're trying to set the record straight. But a record's not straight, especially when you're not. It's a circle with a spiral inside it. Even after everything he'd been through, Sly still had that poetic genius that made him special. And now, as we process the news of his passing on June 9, 2025, surrounded by his 3 children and closest friends after a battle with COPD, we're left with a question that goes far beyond one man's story. How do we measure a life? Do we focus on the tragic ending, or do we celebrate the revolutionary beginning and middle? Sly Stone's family said it best in their statement. He was a monumental figure, a groundbreaking innovator, and a true pioneer who redefined the landscape of pop, funk, and rock music. His songs have left an indelible mark on the world, and his influence remains undeniable. Think about it. How many artists can you name who literally invented an entire genre of music? How many performers created a visual style that influenced decades of musicians who came after them? How many songwriters could make you dance while simultaneously making you think about the deepest aspects of human nature? The tragedy isn't that Sly Stone died. We all face that inevitability. The tragedy is that a society that benefited so much from his genius couldn't find a way to take better care of him in his final years. But perhaps that's missing the point entirely. Maybe the real story here isn't about rise and fall at all. Maybe it's about the immortality of true creativity. Every time someone puts on dance to the music and feels that irrepressible urge to move, Sly Stone lives on. Every time a funk band tries to capture that perfect groove, they're channeling his spirit. Every time musicians of different backgrounds come together to create something beautiful, they're fulfilling his vision. Sly Stone proved that music could break down barriers, that art could unite people across every divide that society tried to create, and that innovation combined with soul could create something truly timeless. His life was messy, complicated, and ultimately tragic, but his contribution to human culture is pristine and eternal. So the next time you hear that infectious bass line from "Thank You," or feel the urge to dance when "Hot Fun in the Summertime" comes on, remember that you're experiencing the legacy of a true genius. Sly Stone may be gone, but the funk he created, the barriers he broke, and the joy he spread will continue inspiring people for generations to come. That's the real measure of a life well lived, not how it ends, but how much light it brings into the world. And by that measure, Sly Stone's light will never fade. Rest in peace, Sly. Thank you for letting us all be ourselves. If this story moved you, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of music's most fascinating figures. Until next time, keep the funk alive.